Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it? You already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye up, bye up. Let's get to the intro. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit the like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that the gun stays kicking. And I appreciate all the support. I'm very humbled by it. Now, everything I'm about to say right now is my own opinion, my own perspective, right? There's no evidence to put it in stone, to put it in concrete, to say this is just what it is and just run with it. So I want you to keep an open mind right now and kind of bear with me. And this is just my train of thought, my ways of thinking, my perspective, my get down, right? Rebecca did it. You know what I'm saying? Rebecca did it. I have, after so much investigation time, so much doing my homework, so much checking background, so much just looking into the baby Emmanuel case, right? I've come to the conclusion, and this is my belief, that Rebecca Haro did it. Okay, I could be totally off base and wrong. I think we're all looking at Jake because of Jake's background and his history of child abuse, and we're all pointing fingers and we're all assuming that Jake did this bullshit, right? But I don't believe so. I believe Rebecca did it. I believe Rebecca was so infatuated with that man that she was willing to do anything for him, take any abuse that he dished out towards him, towards herself and the children, and just got frustrated. How many times have we seen mothers like Casey Anthony and all these different mothers that have done things like this? You know, I remember when I lived in Portland, Oregon, okay? I'm now residing in Washington State. But when I lived there, there was a big case that was going on, and it had to do with a kid named Kyle Horman. And I remember the last and that case was a trippy case. I'll be touching on that case soon in one of my true crimes stories. But that case is still ongoing now for over 20 something years. And I remember in that case, the stepmother was the last person seen allegedly dropping this child off to school. He would never made it to school. He never entered that school. He was never found. I actually met his father. One time I went to the expo out there. They had a car show, and he was out there, the father of Kyle Horman. And he was out there handing out flyers for his son. And this was years after his son had already been missing or passed, presumed dead. And I remember he was no longer, I was able to have a conversation with him. He was no longer with the stepmother. The stepmother refused to answer questions, refused to work with the detectives in that case. She kind of just disappeared and went away, and Kyle was never found, right? Everyone believes truly that that woman killed that child because she was upset with the father, because the father wasn't showing her enough attention. He was showing his kid more attention than her. You know, it's all he said, she said. But at the end of the day, after having a conversation with that father, I kind of realized people might be right. The woman seemed like she just didn't have no emotion. You know, you would show emotion, even if it's your stepchild, you show emotion when a kid is hurt, missing, scraped, cut, anything. You know, as human beings, as parents, as people, as adults, our number one thing is to protect children. Okay. If my child gets a mosquito bite, that mosquito got to go. I'm hunting that fucking mosquito down. Zzz, I'm hitting it with the zapper, and that's just that, right? You ain't taking my child's blood. But at the end of the day, that case is unsolved, and we'll get into the logistics of that case pretty soon. It reminds me of how women sometimes, because of what's going on with the man, can become bitter towards a child, especially when it's that man's child. And it works the other way. Don't get it twisted. There are men that will abuse other people's children because they don't like the father, or they don't like how the family shows that kid love. You know, in the case of Gabriel Fernandez, his stepfather, it wasn't even his stepfather, it was his mother's boyfriend at the time, was abusing him and torturing him because one, he wasn't getting enough attention by Pearl Fernandez, that tirada, that straight up fucking piruja. He wasn't getting enough attention. And because the child, he felt, had tendencies that showed that he was possibly gay, that he was going to make that child suffer. This is another case of a parent that's not really a parent, hurting a child because they feel like they can, because they're in the household. It's their rules, their house. They're going to do whatever they want. I believe Rebecca's guilty because I believe Rebecca was in a situation of anguish. She was in a situation of domestic violence continuously, and she was on drugs, just like her husband, Jake Haro, was on drugs. I believe that they brought this child into an unfit home from the gate, a child that neither one of them wanted, a child that neither one of them loved or cared for, a child of convenience, meaning a child that was just there, but at the end of the day, that's all he was, is just there. Any woman who would be with a man who already child abused his 10-week-old daughter, she knew all about it. She accepted it. She accepted that man knowing he's an abuser and had him around her other children, not his. They created children together, allegedly. We still don't know for facts that baby Emmanuel was even their child. Okay? But they procreation, right? They procreated this child. They had a child allegedly together. And this child was brought into a home where there was drug usage happening. And this comes from reliable sources. That's a fact. People that have actually been in that home. I've talked to people that have actually been into that home that told me motherfuckers were on dope in that home. Okay? Now, when a woman is beaten and battered and she's drug addicted and she's with a man that's already a known abuser and he's abusing her continuously, because like I said, this woman had black eyes on top of black eyes on top of black eyes and probably was infatuated with black guys, right? And Jake didn't like that. So what does Jake do? For whatever reason, he's already a known child abuser. He's already someone that the family should be looking at one way, but they're protecting him. Now, I'm going to be doing another video later on today that's going to give you guys about a little bit of the background on Jake, his brother Hector, as well as his sister. Okay? They grew up pretty bad. Okay? There was some things in their life where I could see Jake having the tendencies that he does. There's no excuse for it. Just because you come from a beaten and battered home or a bad home life doesn't mean you continue that with your own children. But 9 times out of 10, people that do these type of things like beating children or even unaliving children come from that type of household, right? It just is what it is. People that are chomos usually have been touched on when they were young. So it's like the beat goes on. It just continues. It's a vicious cycle, and it's hard to escape that cycle if that's what you went through. I understand, but that doesn't mean you do the same things that were done to you, to your children, if that was even done to you. I believe Rebecca, both sides of these families, her family, obviously they don't like Jake, or they don't even like Rebecca because she was estranged. She was distant from her family. They didn't really care for her. Now we see the stepmother or the grandmother or whoever the fuck this person is, and she's quick to back Jake's play and back Rebecca's play and talk about they just had a grandson buried and this and that. Yes, due to an overdose. Not the first one in that household, and definitely probably not the last one. Well, now that Rebecca and Jake are gone, hopefully that home gets tore down after they find baby Emmanuel's remains or find him, okay? Because right now it's still a crime scene, allegedly. I believe Rebecca did this for that man. Any woman, like I said, that would take in a man, and he was a younger man. So she probably had it looked like she had some issues, with self-confidence. It looks like Rebecca had some issues, with herself, because she settled for a younger man that actually didn't worked time, here and there at Walmart. Everyone in that house was receiving unemployment, so they seemed like the type of ghetto ass family that worked the system. They were receiving food stamps. They were receiving these different things from the system for these children. Now, according to what I've heard and what I've read and what I've seen, baby Emmanuel, They were not receiving AFDC for him. They were not receiving food stamps for him. They were not receiving medical for him. Why is this? Because like I told you in that video, and I doubled down, even though people wanted to question it, I doubled down on that video. From what I was told by someone, an inside source that was close to that family, that was actually there, his wife was there. Baby Emmanuel was born in that living room, and there is no birth certificate because that kid was born with a situation. Just like Jake's son was born with alcohol fetal syndrome, and you can't blame Jake for that. That's on the baby mama, Vanessa Avina. She was the one getting drunk and high, right? But just like that, he was born probably addicted to drugs. And that's hard to watch a kid that is born that way. I have a cousin, man. He was born addicted to heroin. Okay. And I remember as a young child, I didn't quite understand why he bounced off the walls, why he had ADHD, why he was just too much to control and handle. And I'm not going to lie, man, as a young child, me and my cousins used to play jokes on him, like lock him in the closet because he was just too much. Right. When we realized what was wrong with them years later, we felt bad and we understood. And now I'm understanding why he is the way he is. Okay. I believe that baby Emmanuel was the same way. He was still a young child. But you could understand that when you're born addicted to drugs, or you're born in a household where they are utilizing drugs continuously, that kid is getting the secondhand smoke. He's getting it's right there. It's in his face, right? Rebecca was a piece of shit to allow her child, allegedly her child, to have to go through that, to be around a man that is basically a serial child beater. This man went too far. This woman went too far. But I honestly believe that everyone is so focused on Jake and his past that they're missing the big picture. You know, when it first happened and Rebecca went in front of the cameras and said that Ola hit her, she showed no real emotion. Okay, when it's your child, and even if you're being beaten and held against your will and you're going through some things, man, even that will invoke emotion. Maybe not the child missing, maybe not what the child is dealing with, because it seems like it's a child that neither one of them even cared for nor wanted. They sure are not displaying those characteristics as they sit in a jail cell and still have not admitted, still have not told where this child is. So one can only wonder and think that these people have no emotion towards this child because they never bonded. You know, you got to bond with your children. You got to bond with your child. Most mothers do, especially when the child is in the womb. And that's what leads me to believe, quite possibly, I know Rebecca bore this child. I know that child was born to her just because, like I said, I've talked to people that told me they were there when that child was born. So there's no doubt in my mind that that is, I don't know if it's Jake's son, could have been anybody's son, but it definitely came out of Rebecca. And most mothers bond with their child in the womb. And then when they have their child, they bond right off the bat because their child came out of them. It takes a little bit more for a father to bond with his child. I'm just being honest. You have to be in their lives. You have to be there from day one. And when you are and you get an understanding and you know that feeling, then you'll know. But, a lot of fathers that are absent fathers, they're locked up or they disappear or they just leave the woman because they don't want to be around the woman, or it was an accidental pregnancy, or it was a one-night stand, any of these types of things. It's sometimes harder for the men to bond with the child because if they're not initially in the child's life, they don't know how to do that, right? Some, it's just built in them. It's instilled in them. With me, I bonded with every child that I have because I was either there from day one, or it's just in me. I'm a lover of my kids. I love my children, right? More than anything else, more than gangs, more than guns, more than groupies, more than hoes, more than that. Nothing is in comparison to my children and the love that I have for them and the love they have for me right back, right? Not saying that every child loves me because I'm the best father, but they know absolutely I do what I can and I do the best that I can. And always they're going to get the best that I can. Now, when it comes to Jake, we already know he doesn't do the best he can. He didn't do the best he could with Promise, nor did he do the best he could with his son, who got adopted out as well, and is with the same parents that are now raising Promise, a child that was born with alcohol fetal syndrome. It seems that Rebecca was away from certain children too. Her children were caught up in the system. Obviously, I don't know who was living in that household, but it seems like it was Rebecca, Jake, baby Emmanuel, and the little 2-year-old was living there. But Rebecca has other children. So she doesn't seem like the bonding type. She seems like a woman that tends to go for these men that are pretty aggressive, beat on her. It seems like that's where she goes. Maybe it's a self-confidence issue. Maybe it's, she looks in the mirror and doesn't love what she sees. But a woman that's in her mind, She's estranged from her other children. She is around a man who is ruthless, merciless, and a man that has beaten children in the past. You could understand where it could start in getting into her mind that maybe this child is blocking something between them. I believe in a fit of rage, Rebecca Haro did something to baby Emmanuel. And I believe everybody's looking at Jake. Doesn't mean he's innocent. He's guilty as fuck for promise, and he's guilty as fuck for baby Emmanuel because he obviously knew and he went with the story. But I think people might want to shift their focus and stop focusing on just Jake and start focusing on that monster, that fucking monstrous proportions, Rebecca. Okay? She could quite possibly get away with this. She could quite possibly do the Casey Anthony, even though Casey Anthony had lie, even though Casey Anthony was the last one seen with their child, even though we know as just regular people that Casey Anthony was dirty as a dirtbag, right, when it came to her daughter's death and disappearance, she still was able to play the system and play the single mother and get away with it and smile. And I think her beauty had something to do with it. She wasn't that pretty, but I mean, she is all right. But she utilized that to work the system. Now, Rebecca, the transformation from what she looked like to what she is now is two different people. I believe at one point in time, she was a loving mother or tried, and then she met men and went through situations, and maybe the way she feels about herself dictated to this point, man, where we have a baby missing and still a grieving mother that isn't telling us the truth. Rebecca did this. She did this. Okay, that's what I truly believe. I've looked into that woman's eyes through pictures, and I see a woman that has no emotion. A woman that gets more emotional in the courtroom when she's across from her husband, looking at him and seeing what he's going through. That's when it invoked emotion. That's when I first seen a tear. I did not see a tear for Emmanuel during that press conference. All I heard was lies upon lies upon lies. And she still continues to lie to her lawyer. She continues to lie to the district attorney, to the judge, to the reporters, to everyone, law enforcement. She continues to lie. And it takes a lot to continue that story, right? It takes a lot. It takes a demon and a monster to continue that story. So there's no one that could tell me Rebecca didn't do it. My theory is this, and again, it's just a theory. Bear with me, right? Is that somewhere along the line, Jake was tired of baby Emmanuel's crying, or he was tired of her, having to deal with this child, or she was tired of dealing with him. And this man said, hey, either the baby goes or I go. She said the baby goes. And somewhere along the lines, she plotted and planned to do something to this child. I believe Jake became angry with her, not because she did something to this baby, that this baby was dead. I believe he became angry with her because she took the life of this child, and knowing his background, and he was on probation and parole, and probation and whatever he was on, he knew he was automatically going to be blamed for this. So he went into fucking cover up mode. And in the midst of that, he beat Rebecca up because he was upset that she brought this upon him when she was just trying to do something that would make him happy, like get rid of this child. This is what I believe, right? And that he beat her. This is where the black eyes and the bruises came. Then he went into cover up mode. They got rid of baby Emmanuel by throwing him in the trash, and they concocted this story. They probably were concocting, but they concocted this story. And this is where we stand now. Two bitter ass monsters, one a known child abuser and the other one an enabler of one, right? Sitting down in a jail cell, breathing fresh air and eating fucking whatever they're serving them today. Meanwhile, their child is still not found. And I say their child, and I use that term very loosely because I told you guys a long time ago, baby Emmanuel's our child. I'm going to continue to ride this one till the wheels fall off. These are just my theories. I believe Rebecca did it. I believe it's going to come out in the wash when they finally get put in a situation where it's time to put up or shut up. But we need to hold Rebecca just as accountable. Whether she's the ultimate killer of this child or it is Jake, she's just as fucking guilty. And I'll be goddamn if excuse me, God, right? But I'll be damned if I want to see this woman beat this shit. Because if she's able to play that card with her lawyer that they've given her, because she now has private counsel, right? And if this lawyer is able to work a situation where they blame Jake and put it all on Jake because of his history, it's going to look that way, right? And say that she's the beaten, battered woman and she was forced and threatened and all that. There's a possibility that this woman may walk out with just a few years. I don't want her around any more children. She couldn't take care of the ones she had in the beginning before Emmanuel. She definitely couldn't take care of Emmanuel, and she chose the wrong fucking man. And any woman who chooses the type of man that already is a convicted child abuser and has them around her children, well, she's just about as fucking bad as he is. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think I'm off track or I got the right theory? We need to stop focusing just on Jake. His history of what he done to Promise is going to keep him where the fuck he needs to be. But we need to focus on this fat bitch fucking Rebecca. And excuse me for saying fat bitch, but that's just how I feel. I love fat people. I love them, right? Shit. I'm the type of guy that likes bigger women. But this one, she's disgusting. Anyways, with that being said, let me know what you think in the comments, man. I got more videos. Give me videos. Piggyback rights today. Again, rest in peace to Charlie Kirk, man. That was a tragedy that happened yesterday. And rest in peace to baby Emmanuel. And I'm not going to stop. Me, personally, Gunner, Collective, I'm not going to stop till this baby is found, until he is brought home. And that's just the bottom line, because fucking Gun said so. Period. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.